Chapter 7. Tried as by Fire. There are moments in one's career when one knows as clearly as if written in letters of fire that one's whole future may depend on an action or a word. Both may appear insignificant enough in themselves, and yet that one little action, that one little word, may be all sufficient to make or mar a life. Pearl was fully aware of this fact as she saw Lord Martinworth with outstretched hands, his face and eyes all aglow, coming towards her. The moment was portentous. Her first instinct was to greet him with all the pent-up feelings of years, and to throw herself into his arms. But realizing how greatly everything depended on her self-control, she took refuge in silence and inaction, and shrinking back behind her chair, she waited with downcast eyes for him to speak. Lord Martinworth did not appear to resent her silence, or to notice the fear and unrest of her movement. The chair acted as no barrier to his impetuosity, and brushing it aside, he seized her 2 hands and kept them within his own. "At last, Pearl," he said in a low voice, "at last I have found you." She did not reply, but slowly raising her eyes to his, gazed long and steadily into his face. What she saw was a man approaching middle age, with lined face and saddened eyes, and not the Martinworth whom she had known. She had left behind her a man with dark hair, frank and laughing blue eyes, and a mobile and expressive mouth. He whom she saw before her now had hair thickly sprinkled with grey. His eyes, blue as in days of yore, laughed no longer, but gleamed mournfully and somewhat wildly from beneath the finely marked eyebrows, while the beauty of the well-shaped mouth was marred by certain hard and scornful lines that surrounded the slightly parted lips. His very figure seemed altered. He was a tall man, and had formerly been remarkable for his erect carriage. Now there was a stoop in the shoulders, and in spite of the well-cut frock coat, his stature seemed to Pearl to have decreased. All these outward examples of change, these slight signs of degeneration, struck Pearl with a sudden chill. She let her eyes rest on the man before her, feeling as if she were in the presence of a stranger. "Why do you not speak to me?" he asked at last. "Have you no word of welcome for me, Pearl?" "I do not seem to know you," answered Pearl sadly, as she withdrew her hands from his. "You are changed, very changed. You are not the Dick Martinworth I remember." "You find me changed? Doubtless I am. Well, I will credit you with believing that it does not give you much pleasure to look at a wretched, a broken-hearted man, to gaze at your own handiwork," he answered bitterly. "My handiwork?" faltered Pearl. "Yes, your handiwork. Listen, Pearl, God knows I did not come here with the intention of reproaching you, but nevertheless I must tell you a little of the harm that you have done. The man who loved his occupations and enjoyed all that life had to give him, now has taste for none of these things, but on the contrary is possessed, poor soul, with the demon of perpetual unrest. The man who had a certain faith in purity and truth, and was not otherwise than happy in that faith, now doubts whether such things really exist. And yet, Pearl, I did believe in goodness and in truth, for I believed in you. You left me after years of waiting and of longing, left me at the moment I thought my dearest hopes were to be realized. You threw me a letter and left me, and in so doing you have ruined my life. Yes, you have ruined my future and my life." As Martinworth was speaking, his eyes grew larger and wilder, and Pearl shrank back further behind the chair. "I did it for the best," she murmured in a smothered voice. "Dick, I did it for your sake." He took a step towards her and clasped her by the wrist. "Oh, Pearl, you dare to stand there and to tell me that lie! You tell me you did it for my sake, when you know it was only of yourself. It was only of your own reputation, your own good name you were thinking." "I'm not a fool, Pearl, whatever you may think me, and it was easy enough to read through the falseness, the hypocrisy of that letter you wrote me. Why, during all those years we knew and loved each other, were you not always considering, always fearful of what the world, your little mean world, would say? And it was just because you drew your own conclusions as to what would be the verdict of that world if you married me, that without one word of warning you left me. And you tell me now you did it for the best, that you did it for my sake. May God forgive you." And walking to the chimney-piece, Martinworth buried his face in his hands. Pearl was very pale as she came and stood before him. "And you believe that?" she said. "You believe that of me? You are actually capable of believing that I, whom you loved all those years, and who, despite your present accusations, in spite of that overwhelming fear of the world's opinion you speak of, you well know braved that world many and many a time for your sake. You are capable of believing that I, who already had sacrificed so much for you, could lie to you. Lie to you at such a supreme moment. If such is the case, Lord Martinworth, I feel that whatever may have been the motive at the time, the mean, interested one that you lay to my charge, or the single-hearted one of self-sacrifice, which before God I swear it was, whatever I repeat, may have been the motive. I bless heaven for the instinct that prompted me to leave you. The man who can harbor such a thought of the woman he professes to love is only worthy to be despised and scorned, as I despise and scorn you now." Martinworth had evidently not expected this furious onslaught. His face expressed the utmost astonishment, the utmost dismay. "Pearl, Pearl," he cried, "calm yourself, I pray you. What are you calling me? What are you saying? If I have wronged you—" "Wronged me?" she interrupted, as she cast the hand away that he had stretched towards her. "You have not only wronged me, but you have insulted me with the injustice of such mean, such paltry thoughts. Oh, leave me! Why have you come here to disturb me? I have been happy enough these last 3 forgetting years. Leave me, I implore you. You are married. Go back to your wife, to the wife who loves you, and leave me in peace." Martinworth looked up with a strange light in his eyes. "My wife?" he said. "What has she got to do in this matter? Have you seen her?" "Yes, she has been here. Go back to her. Go back and leave me. This interview is most distressing to me. It is painful for us both. It were surely best to end it. Perhaps later on we may be calmer and able to meet without mutual reproaches, mutual regrets. Now we are both of us angry and bitter. Oh, how could you say those things of me? I beg you to go. I can never forget what you have just said. Go, Dick, go." Tears stood in her eyes as she held out her hand as a token of farewell. Martinworth took it and kept it within his own. His face had become softer as she was speaking, and Pearl at last realized, as he gazed fixedly at her with a well-known devoted look of old, that standing before her was indeed the Dick Martinworth she had always loved. The colour flew into her cheeks, and her heart beat as once again she felt his touch, the contact of his hand, and her thoughts went back to scenes and days gone by. He was looking at her with those beautiful eyes of his. They had lost their wildness now, and were gazing down into hers, with a world of regret, of tenderness, and of sorrow in their depths. "Sit down," he said quietly. "I wish to speak to you, Pearl, before I go. You must listen to me, dear." She let him press her gently back into a low chair, and he knelt down beside her, taking her two hands in his. He heard her heart throbbing, and before she knew what he was premeditating, he leaned forward and kissed her lips. Pearl closed her eyes as for one brief moment her head rested on his shoulder and his lips clung to hers. Then she pushed him from her and rose from her chair. "Ah, leave me, Dick," she cried. "What are you premeditating? What are you doing? Do not hold of me any more. Do not kiss me again. Do not touch me. But leave me, leave me." He had sprung to his feet. "I cannot leave you," he said. "I have loved you so long, Pearl. I lost you. I have found you. And do you think I can leave you now? I can live no longer without you." "Oh, no, no, no," she cried. "You must not love me now. I cannot forfeit my salvation even for you, Dick. Leave me and never come back. I implore you, never come back again. You tell me to go, Pearl, but you still care for me. I see it in your face, your eyes. I know you love me as much as you have always loved me. And tell me, what is salvation compared with our love? Our great absorbing love? Oh, come to me, my Pearl. I have waited for you so long, so very long, and have found you again after all these years. Though many and many a time I have railed against you, and even cursed you, Pearl, I have never ceased to love you, dear, to dream of you as mine. And now once more we are together, and we must never be parted again. Pearl, my Pearl." He ceased, but the words still rang in her ears. "We must never be parted again, Pearl, my Pearl." The sound intoxicated her. With beating heart and eyes shining like stars, she went towards him. "Dick," she cried breathlessly, "I shall lose my soul for all eternity. I shall lose it now in spite of all my many years of fighting and of striving. But after all, I am but a woman, and I love you. Yes, I love you. I long for you as much, more than you have ever longed for me. I'm only a woman, a poor, weak, tempted woman. What can I do against you, who are so strong? Therefore I come to you, my love. I come." She flew to his arms, and he folded her within them. This time she gave him back kiss for kiss. "Wait," she said a minute later, unclasping his arms from her neck. "Wait a moment, and let me think." "No, no, no," he cried. "You must not think. You must not wait to think. Come with me now. Come away from this place. Come with me, darling, where we can live forgotten and unknown." She did not seem to hear him. She had walked towards the window and was gazing out into the garden, where, round the shrubs and flowers, the twilight was quickly gathering. She stood there motionless for many minutes, it seemed to him. Then she turned and faced him. Round the lips there was a look of great and stern resolve, though the eyes were softened by unshed tears. "No," she said, "I have changed my mind. I will not. I will never go with you. My resolution cannot be altered. Dear Dick, I implore you to go, to leave me now, for I will not come between your wife and you. I have promised her." "My wife? My wife? Why drag in my wife again?" he cried. "What is she to you? What is she to me? I tell you, Pearl, she is nothing to me. And I'm less than nothing to her. She goes her way and I go mine. She has her friends, I have mine. She is my wife only in name. And you compare this arrangement to the perfect love that you and I have for each other, to the devotion of years. You will let this wretched, this unnatural state of things stand between us? No, you shall not do so, Pearl. God knows I'm accustomed enough to women's moods. But a minute ago you said you would come with me. You were even willing to sacrifice your salvation for my sake. Why change now? You shall not change now. You are bound to me by your flight, by your word, by our love, by everything. And by God, you shall come." And he caught her once more in his arms, kissing her hands and face. She wrenched herself free. "Dick," she said, with eyes large with fear, and warding him off with her hands, "listen to me, I pray you. You are wrong about your wife, totally, entirely wrong. You may not love her, but she loves you. Deeply, truly. Indeed she does. She wept today when she mentioned your name. I promised her, recklessly perhaps, that I would never be her friend. It was a foolish, a rash promise, I know, but while I have breath in my body, I intend to keep it. So go back to her, Dick. She loves you. Oh, Dick, in the old days you always listened to me. You always did what I desired. Once more I beg, I implore you to do so now, and to leave me. But today is not yesterday, and I will listen no longer. You have fooled me too often, Pearl. You are free now, and you shall be mine forever and ever. Do you hear? Forever and ever." And once again he was going towards her with outstretched arms, when he stopped abruptly in his approach. The varied trials and excitements of the day had resulted in one termination, and that a natural one. Pearl's overstrained nerves at length gave way. With a cry like a wounded animal, she threw herself on the sofa, her head buried in the cushions, sobbing in all the abandonment of grief and fear, while Lord Martinworth, standing perfectly still, watched her. In the many years he had known and loved Pearl, he had never seen her weep before. No, not even that time years ago, when she had bared her arm and shown him the bruises caused by her husband's blow. As he watched her now in bitter silence, he perceived perhaps for the first time the terrible struggle between right and wrong that he had aroused, and a hitherto unknown feeling of utter contempt, complete abhorrence of self welled up within him. He knew now that he had conquered in the fight, that he had but to take her within his arms, and she would be his, body and soul, his forever. But the certainty of this knowledge brought him no triumph, no joy. For once he saw himself as he was, and the inequality of the contest, The self-acknowledged cowardice of his present conduct brought a flush of humiliation and of shame to his cheeks. He stood for a moment hesitating as he watched the quivering form and listened to the stifled sobs. He took one step towards her. He gently touched her hair. Then he paused, and with a parting glance, revealing both grief and remorse, without a word, he turned and fled. And Pearl, lying there with her head buried in the cushions, heard the door close, the retreating footsteps, and the noise of the carriage driving away. And then, but only then, she understood that she had banished him for all eternity. She rushed to the open window and cried to him in a voice sharp with agony, but the occupant of the carriage was far beyond the sound of her call. And once more she threw herself on the sofa and hid her face in her hands. "What have I done?" she cried aloud. "I have sent him away. I have sent him away. Oh, what made me do it? How could I do this thing? What do I care for duty and honor? And his wife, what is she to me? What right had she to exact such a promise from me? Why should I be her friend? She is my enemy, not my friend. And her husband, my love, my only love. I have sent away. I have sent away." Thus Pearl raved while the night closed in upon her. And yet that evening, as she knelt by her bedside, this prayer was uttered in all sincerity from the depths of her heart. "O God," she prayed, "keep him away from me, for I am very weak and he is strong. Keep him from me, keep him from me." For 2 days, morning, noon, and night, that prayer was offered up to the throne of heaven. The 3rd day and the 4th, it passed her lips, haltingly but once. The 5th, the 6th, and the 7th days, it was uttered no more. Hardly a week had gone by when one morning, with a racking head and trembling fingers, Pearl sat herself down by her writing table. She did not hesitate as she took the pen and wrote these words. "My heart's darling, I know now what I have done. I have sent you away. You whom I love and have ever loved. Come back to me. Come to me after dinner tonight, and I will teach you what a woman's sacrifice, a woman's love, can be."